Left my highlighters upstairs. Happy Saturday, beautiful people. I use my backup pen. Lavon, blessings, blessings. All right, beautiful people. Happy Saturday. It is July the 9th, 2022, day 154 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. Another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1172. Today, we're reading the Oahspe, starting on the first page in the first book of God on page 263. Ready to get going? Father, you know what it is. We ready. Bright and early on post. All right, y'all. Page 263. Let's get right to it. First book of God. The introduction says, being contemporaneous with the book of Spenta Armige, daughter of Jehovah, as the upper book related to the higher heavens, so in like manner dealeth the first book of God with the lower heavens and with the earth for the same period of time. For which reason this book is placed below the other. This book treateth fully of the 4 great persons chosen by God, namely Po of Japheth, inspired by the god Yima, Brahma of Vidyu, inspired by the god Div, Abram of Parsi, and afterward of Arabinia, inspired by the god Vishnu, and Iwata, which is the 4th one, of North Gautama, inspired by the god Os. And these inspirations were for the same period of time known in the kingdoms of heaven as the time of the Ark of Spita. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back. Let me finish reading, then I'm gonna go back. Known in the kingdoms of heaven as the time of the Ark of Spita. These 4 gods were the chief deviant gods of that day. Hachu being Div in chief. Okay. So if we go back, we got 3 references. Okay. Back up where it says, when it first started talking about the 4 men on earth, it says, namely Po of Japheth. Japheth is reference number 1. And at the bottom, remember, Japheth it is China or China. Auntie, shalom, shalom. Then inspired, let me just read it again. This book treateth fully of the 4 great persons chosen by God, namely Po of Japheth, which is China or China, inspired by the god Yima, Brahma of Vidyu, inspired by the god Div, Abram of Parsi, and afterwards of Arabinia. And after Arabinia is reference number 2. And at the bottom, Arabinia, it says of Egypt. Then, and afterward, Arabinia, which is Egypt, inspired by the god Vishnu, and Iwata of North Gautama, inspired by the god Os. And these inspirations were for the same period of time, known in the kingdoms of heaven as the time of the Ark of Spita. And after the Ark of Spita is reference number 3, which says, of the Ark of Bond. We mentioned the Ark of Bond. We haven't gotten to it yet, but we will in a few books be coming upon it. It's really good from what I've read in it so far. Okay, now begins chapter 1. The creator of creations, out of whom are all voices, of whom are all things in semblance, from him and in him these utterances, by his gods and lords and high raised angels and mortals, into whose dominion gave he the earth for the glory of Jehovah, whose God came and walked and talked with such as had been prepared for the deliverance of his chosen. The four preserved divisions of the earth gave he four sons of holy light and power for the voice of God and his lords. Poe of Japheth, Abram of Arabinia, of hold on. Poe of Japheth, Abram of Arabinia, Brahma of Vidu, and Iwata of Gautama, whose records are everlasting on the earth, which are testimony that these men were raised up by the Father for his own glory and for the deliverance of men. Chapter 2, the first Chinese Bible, being Poe and Iesu, chosen by God for the children of Japheth. All right. So we looked this up before. We're going to look up Iesu again, which is what they also call JC, right? Iesu in the glossary. Y'all probably remember it. Iesu on page 778. And it says Iesu, Yeshua. A sexless person, one born without the possibility of sexual passion, also one who has attained that state of mind to be one with the all light, such as Brahma, and properly called Iesu. The name Jesus was derived from this term. The Hebraic word Ayu was made from Iesu, one who can hear the voice of the Great Spirit. Ayu has been improperly confounded with Jehovah. All right, chapter 2. These are the generations of the Lion of Light from the time of Zarathustra: Shusa, Gawan, Lu, Sam, Diho, We, Him, Gao, Sing, Wing, He Wing, Sikong, Lamni, Mu Yao Tine, Lutz, Haim, Masi, Hong, Gi, Wan Gi, Selu, succeeding one another. These are the names. Remember, this is First Chinese Bible, so these names sound about right. From what I understand with the names I've heard, like Ming Ming and Ming Chao. No disrespect, I'm just saying, I can tell this is China. All the foregoing were seers and prophets of God. And after God, it has in parentheses light, like light, bright light, and it has reference to letter A. And the references for first book of God, we will find on page 316. All right, so A says, with the ancient Chinese word light is equivalent sometimes to our English word God and sometimes to Jehovah, creator, just as Christians and Jews sometimes make no distinction between the words God and Jehovah. The same rule applies to the expression and light said, etc., or and Mazda said, etc., or said, etc. In this first book of God, these words are used in a cosmopolitan sense, covering angelicized philology, consonant, with both ancient is supposed to be constant. I'm going to read it like it say. In this first book of God, these words are used in a cosmopolitan sense, covering angelicized philology, consonant with both ancient and modern times, 1882 edition. Okay, let's go back to page 264, chapter 2 at the bottom, reading verse 3. All the foregoing were seers and prophets of God. light, having the voice from their youth up, and were each in turn a shield and guardian unto the chosen of God. Faithist. God, light, said, with Selu, behold, the voice was lost. But I called aloud on the face of the earth, and my light spread abroad. And there came a woman of Chisong named Hasi and Ehim, through whom the voice was regained. Hasi had 7 sons and 7 daughters, all of whom heard the voice and saw the light. And God divided the 14 sons and daughters from one another and sent them in different ways. These then are the tribes that sprung of them: King, Si, Gui, Lu, Haiga, Haisigua, Yo, Hafung, Ni, Halam, Seing, Yuthlo, John, Ying, and Ho Lun Gao. From the line of Ha Feng sprang Enam Yo and Zizu, half Ehim. From Ying sprang Noah and Ulam, also Yutzi and Hia. And God commanded the Hians to dwell toward the south, and they so dwelt. From the line of King descended the We Yaho, and they lived toward the north and made fellowship with the Fosim, who were Ehuans by blood, and also followers of the Zarathustrian law under the name Sasin, having rabbis whom they called Ba, the same as to this day. From the tribes of Fosim sprang Han, and from We Yaho sprang Hai and Tiwing, both of which tribes had the light and the voice. And all of the north regions of Japheth dwelt in peace and happiness. And God looked upon them and blessed them in all things. Jan Grand Rising. Nevertheless, it came to pass that the tribes of Han forgot the commandments of God, and Lehan, a mighty chieftain, rose up against them. Rose up amongst them and reestablished the Osirian doctrines that corporal knowledge should stand higher than the Ormazdian law. Han usurped the central throne of Japheth, calling himself Han, king of the sun. And so Han gave himself up to getting knowledge and to enforcing knowledge upon the people. Han had issued the following decree: Han, king of the sun, behold, there is one sun and his satellites. There shall be but one kingdom with satellites. Behold me, I am the sun king. I will put away all other doctrines and learning. Let all the world bow down to me. Han was asked, shall a man not worship the unseen? He answered, better is it to worship a stone which thou canst see. It's always one in the family. It's always one knucklehead, ain't it? So he about to find out too. Han was asked, shall a man not worship the unseen? He answered, better it is to worship a stone which thou canst see. Han said, worship not in words, but in works. Worship not in prayer, but in doing righteously. What is prayer but crying to one's own weakness? If there be an unseen light, he will do his own way. What is the use of praying to him? Rites and ceremonies to him are the expression of folly. Rites and ceremonies to our forefathers are excusable. If their souls continue to exist, the rites and ceremonies may give them good pleasure. So Han abolished the worship of Jehovah, light, and his gods and lords. God looked down from his holy hill in heaven, and he said, it is well, let Han have dominion. Behold, Han enraptureth the multitude with his new doctrines, remembering not that these doctrines were tried thousands of years before. God prophesied through his prophet Zewing, saying, hear me, O Han, and all ye people of the world. I prophesy by the voice and light, God and Jehovah. I know my words are true words. By words the soul is bent, not by praying to the unseen. The unseen will be forgotten. By the abolition of rites and ceremonies to the gods will be forgotten. Man will rise up in self conceit against his Creator, saying, behold me, I am the highest of all things. My judgment is the greatest of all wisdom, and the tribes of men will aspire to establish opinions as fundamental doctrines. War and destruction will come upon the nations. Han would not heed the prophecy of God. Han established what was called the first Han dynasty, and it overspread the land of Japheth from center to circumference. And there came of the laws of Han great persecution against the faithists, the worshippers of Jehovah, light. Han said, try them by the food they eat, and whoso refuseth to eat fish or flesh shall suffer death. That's the first thing you got to do, right? To get people off, you got to get them consuming fish and flesh, right? Why? Because it makes not only the body heavy, it makes the spirit heavy, and it dulls it, and you cannot hear. At least you can't hear from the source of light, not the all light, not the great spirit, right? Han said, sound like what they did, and we read about this in the Bible, right? And give up your ways of fasting and, eating plant-based and eat fish and flesh, or you might die. You need the protein. All of it is lies. It's lies. Han said, try them by the food they eat, and whoso refuses to eat fish or flesh shall suffer death. They're going to suffer death if they do eat it. Just be a little bit longer and worn out. Neither shall any man or woman have favor in the courts who holdeth sacred the life of a cow or a horse or a dog or any other animal on the face of the earth or in the waters or in the air above the earth. We want you to eat everything. Cats, dogs, they're not sacred. Eat them all. I'm going to read 26 again. Han said, try them by the food they eat, and whoso refuseth to eat fish or flesh shall suffer death. Neither shall any man or woman have favor in the courts who holdeth sacred the life of a cow or a horse or a dog or any other animal on the face of the earth, in the waters or in the air above the earth. So the faithists, the followers of the Zarathustrian laws, were outlawed and were tortured and put to death on every hand. And it had come true as prophesied by Zewing. God said, behold, they have not only forgotten the Creator, they denied his person in words, but in behavior, and denied his person in words, but in behavior also, for they no longer hold sacred anything he created alive, even man. Chapter 3. From Zewing, God raised up prophets for 7 generations. Zewing begot Dosi, who begat Yin, who begat Haini, who begat Lanciang, who begat Di Hachi, who begat Holan, who begat Po, who was an Iesu in birth. When Po was yet very young, the voice of God came to him, saying, be steadfast in the doctrines of thy forefathers, eating neither fish nor flesh. Thy God will not only preserve thee alive, but thou shalt gather together the scattered tribes of Zarathustrians, the faithists, and reestablish them in this great land. In those days, many of the Zarathustrians were celibates, and the king saw his people being reduced by war, and he made a law against celibacy, commanding all men to marry and all women to bring forth children or to be put to death. When Po was grown up, God said to him, behold, thou canst not fulfill the law, for thou art Iesu born. But I will fetch thee a wife like unto thee, who is also barren, but ye twain shall be blessed with 3 children, and thou shalt call them Wangi, Togan, and Si Lu. After Wangi is reference number 4, and at the bottom it says Wanli, Wangi, Wanli. In the paragraph is Wan Gi, WAN-GE. The reference number 4 at the bottom says Wan Li, WANLE. Verse 5. And it came to pass that a woman of Hongi with 3 adopted children escaped from the tyranny of Diwan, fleeing for the southern tribes of Hai Gua and Yo and Guan Gu. Hold on. These names just bad as the other ones. Hold on. Start it over. And it came to pass that a woman of Hongi with 3 adopted children escaped from the tyranny of Diwan, fleeing for the southern tribes of Hai Gua and Yo and Guan Gu, and with her Po wed, and he named his wife Ah Tadauji. Ah Tadauji. Yeah. Poe was 20 years old when he married, and he went with his wife and 3 children to the country of Hing Adi, which name signified brotherland, and he labored at scootching flax and hemp. And God came to Poe saying, what is the extent of thy fidelity to the all highest light? Poe said, I will obey him in all things. God said, wouldest thou sacrifice thy 3 sons if commanded by thy creator? Poe said, they are the creator's, not mine. How dare I sacrifice that which is another's? God said, thou art wise. Thou knowest the Ormazdian law. Poe asked, who art thou? Who is this that cometh upon me silently asking questions? God said, go thou visit Hai Siang, the philosopher, and question him. Hai Siang was governor of the South Province of Hingadi, and was withal a man of great learning. Poe came to him and questioned him, saying, what is this that asketh us questions? Why do we question and answer ourselves all day long? Hai Siang answered, are we not 2 selves? Do we not discourse within ourselves like 2 selves? Poe said, which sayest thou is the superior self, that which questioneth within us forever, or that which is forever answering? The governor said, that which asketh questions must be the superior self. Poe said, who is it? Hai said, it is nothing. It is something. Poe answered him, this is the guy you wanted me to go ask questions? He said, it is nothing. It is something. Look. Poe said, who is it? Hai said, it is nothing. It is something. Poe answered him, saying, it appeareth to me these 2 selves are 2 different persons, one belonging to the flesh, the other to the Creator, because this questioning self is the same one that seeth and heareth God's angels. Hai said, what sayest thou, God and angels? Poe replied, God and angels. To which the governor took exception, saying, doest thou too defy the law? Poe said, what I see. What I hear. Something external to ourself made us and ruleth over us. The governor asked, have we not rid the world of superstition? Why dealest thou with doctrines that are in the dark ages? I tell thee, there are 2 things only in all the universe, the unseen firmament and the corporal worlds that float therein. Their action and reaction on each other produce what we call life, which is but an effervescence that cometh and goeth, and there is the end. The laws are right. Han have done a good thing in abolishing the doctrines of the ancients. Whilst they were yet talking, God sent a blaze of fire into a bush standing nearby, and a voice spake out of the flame, saying, who then sayest thou I am? For verily I am. The governor saw the light and beheld that the bush was not burnt, and he also heard the voice. This sound like Moses. The governor saw the light and beheld that the bush was not burnt, and he also heard the voice. But God suffered him to be hard of heart, and Hai said, Behold, thou comest to me, knowing I am a philosopher, and thou canst thy spell in the bush like a magician. I am master of 1,000 books, and am registered as a man of great learning. Thou hast offended me. Paul said, Why accusest thou me? For is it not just for me to accuse thee of casting a spell? I cast it not. Again did God appear and speak, saying, Accuse thou not this, my son Poe. Thou shalt labor with him. Behold, I give into thy keeping the country of Phet, for even this hour hath died Mugwan. The tribes of Gon shall be gathered together in Phet and Hear D. Great Spirit Jehovah, peace and blessings, family. Hai Siang, the governor, was astonished at the words of the light, and he sent a servant to ascertain if Mugwan was dead, and it turned out to be true, though the distance was a day's journey each way. Chapter 4, we at 26 minutes? Okay. Hai Siang, the governor, sent for Asen to come and investigate the nature of Po. So when the three were together, God wrote in the sand the word TN, and it was as if a flame of fire pierced the ground. Po said, From this time forth, Tayin shall be the name of the tribes who have faith in the Creator only. Come through, Po, right? That's what we on. There is only one creator. We call him Yah. They calling him the great. No, they're calling him light. Poe said, From this time forth, Tayin shall be the name of the tribes who have faith in the Creator only, because he alone hath written it. Asen said, How canst thou distinguish betwixt that which is written by the spirits of the dead and that which is written by the Creator? Poe said, Light cometh in light, darkness cometh in darkness. That kind of might be our title for today. Let me think about it. I ain't put yesterday's title up. I'm so busy running around. Okay, verse 5. Hai Siang asked, Sayest thou, let's start over. Hai Siang asked, Sayest thou canst see the angels and the gods? Po said, I see the angels, but the gods I cannot see. Angels are like ourselves, but the gods are as a flame of fire. Now, whilst they were discoursing, a light in the form of a triangle came and rested on Poe's head, and the word Te'in, Te-in, and the word Te'in was inscribed on the sides of the triangle. Remember, Te'in is the name of the tribes. From this time, the name Te'in shall be the name of the tribes who have faith in the Creator only. Okay. Now, verse 7 on page 269 at the bottom. Now, whilst they were thus discoursing, a light in the form of a triangle came and rested on Poe's head, and the word Te'in was inscribed on the sides of the triangle. The governor said, What signifieth this? And Poe, being under the influence of the light of God, said, Call me Te'in. I am the Father, Rabbah or Ba, over all the living. I write in the sand and speak in the mouths of my seers and prophets. He that ye call Po is my son, begotten for the deliverance of my chosen out of the bondage of Han and his satellites. And satellites is sub-kingdoms. Behold, my people are imprisoned and tortured, persecuted and abused, and ye twain have kingdoms taxed for the glory of Han in his unrighteous work. Provide ye also triangles and espouse me, and I will deliver your kingdoms also. Hai Siang and Asen both desired some pretext to throw off the yoke of the Han dynasty, and now lent willing ears to the instruction of Po and the voice, Teim. Accordingly, the learned men of these provinces were called together to learn of God through Po the mysteries of earth and heaven, and especially as to the great monarchy. When these councils were assembled, God cast his light upon Po, and they all saw it. And the words Po spake were called God's words, Vidor. Word by word learned they the wisdom of God, repeating them over and over, which was called learning by the mouth, being in con- oh, being in contradistinction from learning by books and tablets. Let me read that whole verse again. Oh yeah, I noticed that Oahspe College University said, you notice how the prophets have different levels of light. Some can see angels, some can see gods, some can even see Ethereans. Yeah, it's the same thing for the true prophets here that I've noticed as well. Some of them have the different degrees or levels, I guess you can say, that they've attained to or whatever. And they some can see further than others can see. And I mentioned before, and I think I said it backwards the last time I said it. I said, it's that saying I said it backwards, but the right way to say it is seers are prophets, but not all prophets are seers. But the last time I said it a couple weeks ago, I said prophets are seers, but not all seers are prophets. That was wrong. I said it backwards. And I didn't catch it until that day when I was going through the video trying to remember what I said I was going to post for y'all. And I said, I'm like, crap, I said that backwards, right? So the proper way to say it is all seers are prophets, but not all prophets are seers. Not all prophets can actually see, from what I've come to find out. Some of them are really just used as a voice conduit for the Father, but others can actually see and prophesy. And from what I understand, it really is based, if it's based on a thing, I think the level of dedication and consecration to the Father. Yeah, from what I've noticed and what I've seen. I could be wrong. And they could just be chosen. But if they're chosen, then they're consecrated in a way that most people just won't submit themselves to that type of discipline. Wait until you read Caillou, Confucius. Oh yeah, I'm super excited. Let me keep reading. Don't get me sidetracked. Look, don't get me sidetracked on Oahspe College University. No, I'm just joking. Okay. Hold on, let me just start at 13 again. Accordingly, the learned men of these provinces were called together to learn of God through Po the mysteries of earth and heaven, and especially as to the great monarchy. When these councils were assembled, God cast his light upon Po, and they all saw it. And the words Po spake were called God's words, Vidor. Word by word learned they the wisdom of God, repeating them over and over, which was called learning by the mouth, being in contradistinction from learning by books and tablets. God said, great trials will come upon my people. The kings will seek to destroy the doctrines of the Lord thy God, Teim, for which reason ye shall not write nor engrave my words until I come in judgment of the world. These then that follow are the sacred laws given through Po by God, Teim. Seek to bring forth heirs that will glorify thy Creator. Oh, and this is where it starts. The first one is seek to bring forth heirs that will be a glory to thy Creator. Marry not because of the impulse of the beast, the natural man, but consider thine own spirit and the spirit of thy spouse. Bruh, that's now that'll preach, as my mama would say, right? Now that'll preach. Shoot. That'll preach and teach. Matter of fact, they should preach and teach it. Francis. Shalom. Listen, Marry not because of the impulse of the beast, right? The natural man, the flesh, your dog, right? Marry not because of the impulse of the beast, the natural man, but consider thine own spirit and the spirit of thy spouse, right? And even in the, as we're going, look, okay, so verse 18, with the first one where it says, seek to bring forth heirs that will be a glory to thy creator, reminds me in a scripture where it says, darn it, I just had it. Um, Bringing forth heirs unto righteousness, right? You shouldn't be unequally yoked, unequally yoked with people who don't believe like you believe. You should marry somebody with the same belief in the great spirit, the great creator, or Yah as you, so you can bring forth heirs unto righteousness, right? Verse 18, seek to bring forth heirs that will be a glory to thy creator. Number 19, marry not because of the impulse of the beast, the natural man, but consider thine own spirit and the spirit of thy spouse, being not unequally yoked, right? Verse 20, shut not up thyself in celibacy, but multiply and adorn the earth, right? Be fruitful and multiply. Thy creator provided milk for the infant, but with the coming of teeth, thou shalt provide for their services also, right? We all of this stuff we've read before, but it's worded a little bit differently, but we can clearly tell we've all gotten the same laws from the great creator. They just explain it a little bit different, but it's the same exact thing. I read 21 again. Thy creator provided milk for the infant, but with the coming of the teeth, thou shalt provide for their service also. Feed thou him according to the Ormazdian law, or the law of the great creator. To make him a warrior, give him fish and flesh. To make him patient and strong with docility, remember the camel and the ox, feeding on the herbs that grow on the earth. Niwong asked, was not celibacy the highest of all laws? Is it not so now? God said, listen, let me tell you something as well. Okay, listen to what I'm saying. I would still say celibacy is one of the highest laws, at least for the younger people, right? Those who haven't married yet, right? But there still is a chastity. Did I say that right? A chasteness that you can practice while married and still being intimate with your spouse. There's a certain chasteness that you have by being faithful within your marriage union that will still give you like a lot of power, the both of you. But while being single, keeping your virginity, or if you were once not celibate but choose to become celibate, especially, well, I say for both, for men and for women. Men hear it today, celibacy, they may not use that term so much, but one of the going terms today is called semen retention. There is great power when you hold on to your seed, right? Not only does it take all the brain fog and dumbness and dullness away from you, it makes you sharp. It makes you productive, right? Because when you just shooting off your seed into every which way, whether it's just out in the air to a person, whatever, you're also losing nutrients. That is scientific. It holds nutrients, right? Some people try and beat the system. Some guys are trying to beat the system. They don't want to practice the discipline of not feeling something warm, right? They'll even go all the way up to the point that this is how they try and cheat the system. They'll engage in sexual acts, but they'll go all the way to the point where they learn how to hold on to their seed while still experiencing the climax. It takes some practice, but it can be done. But that's how you cheat the system, right? But I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Not unless you're with your spouse and you know your wife may be extremely fertile and y'all not ready to have a baby yet. I would say then that's probably appropriate to use there, right? Just save it for another time. But also, the more you save it, the more quality of a product you will put out, right? This is like science, guys. If y'all know this, you should probably go look into it. What happens with the body when the men retain their semen within them? Look, just Google or YouTube semen retention. Right now, you got some people up there, some guys up there that it seemed like they're doing the videos for views. You can tell the ones who actually know what they're talking about versus the one that sound like they're reading from a script. And some of the younger ones, it sounds like they're just kind of getting started because it's some of their videos are almost like cookie cutter videos. But anyway, look that up. But yeah, when you do that, it actually makes you stronger. It makes you more spiritually aware. And although women don't give off semen, there is fluid that they lose as well, especially women who have orgasms that actually can release like men. Not all women do, but all women can, but not all women do. They call it something else. I'm not going to say the word here because it just sounds a little bit too inappropriate to say here, but it starts with an S and ends with a G. Just figure it out. Um, but it's the release of fluids as well from the women, and if you're doing that a lot, it will cause you're also losing nutrients, right? You would deplete your body of potassium really quick. You will catch a cramp. Like if y'all really actually go study the science of this, the climax, and what actually happens to the body when you release those nutrients and you hold on to them, it'll blow your mind. It's a whole nother level of education that will come in handy while you're growing spiritually. So it help you kind of understand some things, right? We're just not going to have that conversation right here. I think that's when my husband should be present because we would have to say some things, and he not here right now. I mean, he here, but he upstairs. So, but anyway, just go look into that. Just go look into it. It makes a world of a difference, especially when you're growing spiritually and you're trying to pull yourself under control. If you're trying to practice celibacy, if you're not married, but also practicing that chasteness while you're married, right? You can come together with purpose and not just for playtime. I mean, you can have a bit of both, right? But y'all get it. Okay, let's just go back. Verse 21. Thy creator provideth milk for the infant, but with the coming of the teeth, thou shalt provide for their service also. Feed thou him according to the Ormazdian law, to make him a warrior, give him fish and flesh, to make him patient and strong with docility. Remember the camel and the ox, feeding on the herbs that grow on the earth. And Wong asked, was not celibacy the highest of all laws? Is it not so now? God said, there are times for all things. In the days of Zarathustra, celibacy was the first of the laws. In those days, man was not ready for God's laws. Yet thou shalt not call the one law higher than the other. The fullness of the earth knowledge requireth marriage, yet not, I'm sorry, the fullness of earth knowledge requireth marriage, yet the bondage after death holdeth the spirit of man for 6 generations to his own heirs. By celibacy, a man's soul is not bound after death by the love he beareth his children to linger about the earth, and he may ascend quickly into paradise. Bruh, let me read this again. Listen, look, for y'all to get the full revelation of this, y'all really need to go look into celibacy, semen retention, what happens with the body. This will make a whole lot more sense. Listen, let me go back. Verse 25. The fullness of earth knowledge requireth marriage, yet the bondage after death holdeth the spirit of man for 6 generations to his own heirs. By celibacy, yo, oh man, y'all, man, this part really, This part, oh man, this part really get deep. Especially, y'all ever heard of yo, sex is a powerful thing. Y'all ever heard of people having the what they call it? Um, it's right down the tip of my tongue. Like people that have wet dreams or whatever. Some people actually have like dreams, but some people actually have like experiences where you can feel an unseen entity on your body, like real human flesh, and have intercourse with you. Like you're like fully awake and you're fully conscious of what's happening. Sometimes people get woken up out of their sleep with it happening. Church calls it the spirits of incubus and succubus. It's a real thing, right? And those that some people be like, oh, you tripping. Apparently you haven't experienced it, right? It is so real. Listen, this whole little verse 25 can get so deep. We're gonna have to talk about this at another time though. I'm just saying, listen. The fullness of earth knowledge requireth marriage, yet the bondage after death holdeth the spirit of man for 6 generations to his own heirs. By celibacy, a man's soul is not bound after death by the love he beareth his children to linger about the earth, and he may ascend quickly into paradise. The man or woman that is weak or deformed, or blind or deaf, or with running sores, or with hidden sickness, shall not marry, nor bring forth heirs. Nor shall man take sorrow to his soul for this, for this is the testimony of the Father, that his race is emancipated from the earth. Thou shalt keep sacred the panic language, nor shall these, my holy words, be given in any language till my time is fulfilled on the earth. Remember, the panic language is the first language of the earth. We call it panic. P is spelled just like panic. Panic. Thy sons at the age of 11 years and daughters at the age of 9 years shall begin to learn maxims, and at the same time, they shall be consecrated to the Creator and committed to his service. And the sixth law, this is made apart to wit. Teachers in public shall be celibates. Children who decide that they will become teachers or priests or priestess, yes, baby. Hey, baby. Can you get what? Can you go in there? Yeah, go ahead. Hey, girl. You can go in there too. Go ahead. Y'all can go play. Let me read this again. Verse 28. Thy sons at the age of 11 years and daughters at the age of 9 years shall begin to learn maxims, and at the same time they shall be consecrated to the Creator and committed to his service. And of the sixth law, this is made a part to wit. Teachers in public shall be celibates. Children who decide they will become teachers or priests or priestess shall take the vows of celibacy. For such persons are married to the Great Spirit, and they shall be as gods and goddesses, knowing no more love to one person than another. Remember that they who marry are chosen by Ormaz to raise up offspring for the glory of heaven and earth, and they shall dwell together in peace, love, and harmony. Clearly, we was chosen to bear offspring, right? We got a gaggle of them. All right, y'all, chapter 5. Girl, what is that on your hand? Ugh, what is that? Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here. Oh, hold on. Ugh, Elijah. Elijah. Boy, you go there. Look, switch down over here. Oh. One second, let me check my walls. Hold on. It's my grandbaby. She needs to be changed. And apparently she knows she needs to be changed. She must have checked herself with both hands. Yeah. Ugh. My walls are clear. Oh my gosh, I'm glad I looked at her. All right, listen. Let's go back. No, we're about to start chapter 5. Okay, chapter 5. The wise shall rule over the foolish, but to raise them up. The rich shall apportion their riches for the benefit of the city. Ooh, before we go further. Book of Knowledge, chapter 7:22 works with verse 29. Okay, well, let's look at it real quick. Okay, back to chapter 4. Verse 29 says, remember that they who marry are chosen by Ormas to raise up offspring for the glory of heaven and earth, and they shall dwell together in peace, love, and harmony. Okay, Book of Knowledge is all the way in the back, but let me get the exact page number. Thank you. And for those of y'all who read ahead, when y'all see like similar verses that chain together with something, let us sister know. We'll go to it. Book of Knowledge, 748. Remember, Oahspe College University. He been in Oahspe for years, so he definitely knows way more than what we do. Okay, Book of Knowledge, chapter 7. Chapter 7, 22. Okay. On page 762 is verse 22 on the right side at the top. It says, S said, a sign of the third resurrection hath Jehovah given to men, whereby they shall be known, which is, that self shall not be manifest, save in the union of many. For as the first resurrection may have marriage between two persons who become as one, so do they of the third resurrection become brides and bridegrooms of Jehovah, manifesting in families of tens and twenties and hundreds and thousands, who are also as one. Nor have they any other king or chief ruler or God or Lord or Christ. That's good. Okay. Just like my family, we're known as a family of one, but we are many. The Murphys, right? But we're one. I like that. Okay. Book of Knowledge seems really good. Okay. All right, let's go back. Chapter 5. The wise shall rule over the foolish, but to raise them the wise shall rule over the foolish, but to raise them up. The rich shall apportion their riches for the benefit of the city. The poor shall reverence the rich and take counsel from them. Behold, I have given many gifts unto my people. The woman to give suck a baby. That translates in breastfeeding babies. Only women do that. Not the other thing y'all thinking. Get y'all minds out the gutter. Behold, I have given many gifts unto my people, the woman to give suck, the very strong man to carry burdens, the wise man to oversee the city, the learned man to explain the ancients, the prophet to hear my voice, the magician to hear the voice of angels, the physician to heal the sick. Every several one gave I good gifts. Thou shalt not covet another man's gifts, but be wise in discovering thine own and using them for the benefit of the city. Neither shalt thou covet another man's riches, nor anything that is his. Isn't that like the 10th commandment? Neither shalt thou covet another man's riches, nor anything that is his. What more is a rich man than a watchdog? Behold, it is his matter whether he fulfilleth my commandments. According to every man's gift do I require of him as to what he can do for the people of his city. To the poor man, my exactions are lighter than a straw on a camel's back. For the ignorant man and for every young child, for the ignorant man and for the very young child, I provided the wise and the rich as gods to raise them up. As they minister unto them, so do I bless them for their labor. What they do corporally for the Rex. I'm sorry again. What they do corporally for the resurrection of those beneath them, so do I answer them in spirit in my resurrections in the heavens. Thou shalt not marry but once, neither shalt thou look after any other partner. Thou shalt not marry but once, neither shalt thou look after any other partner all the days of thy life. The husband shall be the master of the house, but when he is not present, the wife shall be master. 7 casts, castes, 7 casts have I made for my chosen. The first are the prophets, the second, such as have high genealogy, the third, the rabbis and priests, the fourth, the nuns, spesus, in parentheses it says spesus, SPE dash E dash SU, spesu. The fifth, physicians. The sixth, the rich. And seventh, the very poor. Each and every each and every case shall remain by itself. All of them are worthy before me. They are equally my children. Thou shalt not kill for food to eat anything that breathes the breath of life. Thou shalt not kill for food to eat anything that breathes the breath of life. Thou shalt love to search for thy Creator in all things on the earth, in the earth, in the waters, and in the air above the earth. Thou shalt love to search for all things that is in thy neighbor, but to excuse all the evil that is in him. Thou shalt keep the sacred days of thy God, and cause all thy people to rejoice in the delightful creations of thy Creator. Thou shalt obey the prophet of thy God, and be obedient to thy father, Rabbah of the city. Next to these, thou shalt honor thy father and thy mother, and pay reverence to thy grandfather and grandmother. In the house, temple of thy God, remember that all men are alike. For even as death layeth the high and the low alike, so stand my people in the house I have built. Thou shalt respect the opinions of all men, for even thyself may be in error. Thou shalt speak but little of thyself or anything that is thine, for all others have a history also. Thou shalt make thyself compatible unto others in all righteousness. Next chapter, where we at? 58? In my bathroom under the sink.
On your side?
On my side, which is the left side.
Yeah. Well, where is it at? Is it up in there?
No, just open it up. You should be able to look in and see it. It's a tall pop. If not, I got one in my shower. I think it's the second one in my shower. All right, y'all. Chapter 6 of cities and government. And it's Saturday. So this chapter is like 16 verses. And we'll read chapter 7. Ooh. Where we at? We got to read a little bit about Abraham. It's the chapter what? 6, 7, chapter 8. We got to at least start. Let me read. Okay. Chapter 6 of Cities and Government. To reinstate the Zarathustrian law, the largest city shall not exceed 2,000 souls, and the smallest shall be 10 families, save they are celibates, in which case a city may be as small as 8 souls, having one rabbah or priest. The best, highest learned man who shall be a celibate shall be the priest and ruler of the city, and the sins of the people shall I'm sorry. And the sins of the people of the city shall be upon his head. But if it be a large city, he may choose one or as many as 6 priests to rule with him. And in that case, the sins of the city shall be upon them. So if this ain't going right, what's going on in leadership? What y'all doing? What kind of operation y'all running here? Right? Verse 3. When a matter cometh up, the priest shall call whom he shall. When a matter cometh up, the priest shall call whom he will to speak thereon. And when they have spoken, he shall decree by his highest light, and that shall be the law without repeal, save by himself. It shall be lawful for the governor, who is the chief priest, prior to death, to repeal all his laws, so that his successors shall make new laws. For no man shall be bound after death by his own laws, in which case he could not come back and repeal them. But as regarded the laws, a governor or chief priest maketh while he ruleth over a city and over all persons whom he hath ruled during his lifetime, he shall be responsible for them, both in this world and the next. For if a priest or governor maketh a law of darkness, and his people live by that law, their souls will be in darkness in the next world through his fault, and he shall answer to them in the soul world for what he hath done in this. And clearly we know they waiting for you. Right? Yeah. Verse 6. Wherein the manufacture of copper or iron or other things requires more than 2,000 people, there shall be another city within 5 breadths of the first city between them, and the government of the second city shall be like unto the government of the first. But in no case shall there be more than 4 cities near about the same country. Ye shall neither hire nor be hired, neither amongst yourselves nor with the king's peoples. Nor shall ye have servants nor masters, for all shall be alike servants to Ormaz only. Sinwah inquired, was it not taught in the Zarathustrian age to respect the case of men according to the number of their servants, and whether according to the descendant of men they were born of parents who had risen above servitude for many generations? God said the old law was for the olden time. It was a good law to improve the breed of men for special trades and learning, and that law hath fulfilled its purpose. The physician hath found great cures, and he knoweth all the parts of the flesh and blood. The miner knoweth the different kinds of stone and the metals in them, and how to extract them. The farmer knoweth the grounds and the yield thereof, and what they will best bring forth. The spinner and weaver have found the best fibers for paper and for cloth, and so hath it come to pass in all departments by the Zarathustrian law of case have they perfected these things sufficient unto the requirement of man. That right there is another whole lesson that really needs to be taught. When things have served their purpose, it's time to adjust, right? A lot of people like to keep to the old ways of things. Then you become non-productive and you get tyrants and you get rebellions because you're not progressing, right? That was good for that time. Now we have cell phones. Do away with that. Even now, the landlines have come a little bit become a little bit better with like fiber optic cables and all this other type of stuff. Those things were good then. It's not so good now. Just like when we moved into this house, we could tell where we met the sellers. We can tell they're an older generation, right? They were the only owners of this home. They were the first owners and only owners in this neighborhood when these homes were built in 2005. And so some of the things, although it's nice, we're adjusting. Even like some of the handles and the window dressings, which they call, I learned the other day, it's called window treatment. My mom was like, I like the window treatment. Not saying my mom is old. Clearly, my mother is older than I am. So I could tell the sellers, they're about the age of my parents, right? But they like they call them window treatments, right? My husband, it's funny. My mom was like, I like the window treatments. My husband's like, huh? What you talking about? He was talking. My husband was thinking like the windows and like sometimes what you treat windows with. That's what we think about when we hear window treatment. But she was talking about the drapes, how they had it fixed as like a nice little design. We like it, but the ones they have up, we can tell. It's the older generations liking. We like more modern, flashy type stuff. Not too flashy, but like more, although I like ancient stuff, I like uh I like it to have a little bit of pizzazz and jazz to it. So there are certain things that was good while they were the rulers of this place. Now that they're new rulers, we're adjusting things to our liking, right? We're changing out handles, we're changing out the cabinets and the floors and all those different things, right? It's good for the time it served its purpose. Now that it's done, it's time to upgrade. Yes, thank you. Vintage. That's the word I was looking for, Jen. Vintage. Shalom, Audrey. Bronze Yogi. Shalom. Better make sure there are no familiar spirits in there. Yo, let me say, that's the first thing. Look, did I tell y'all? Yo, listen. I didn't tell y'all. Okay, let me pause. I'm glad you said that about familiar spirits. Hold on, bruh. Hold on. Let me keep my spot. Let me just do a big. We might not even read Abram, get to that because I'm about to tell y'all my story. I'm gonna try and make it quick. Okay. So, of course, when we come into a new place, that's the first thing I do. I go through setting boundaries and whatever spirits that is there that shouldn't be there, you got to roll out. It's a new sheriff in town, right? Okay. So I told y'all about the different houses we went to look at, the Gopher House, and we labeled this the Peace House. And we labeled this the Peace House because when we first came into the neighborhood and looked at it and we walked through, not only was the space, it's bigger, it's like over 3,300 square feet. It's just the atmosphere when you walk in, it was different. So much so, like when we was here with the realtor walking through the first time, of course they still had furniture in here. And I shared this part with y'all, but I didn't share the part I'm about to tell y'all after we purchased the house what happened. Okay, so we was in here, we was walking through, the kids saw the play set in the back, and they went out there because she ran a in-home daycare that was like state certified. She's actually both her and her husband are retired veterans. And when she got out, since their kids were already growing out the house, they just kind of wanted something to do in their retirement, and they love children, so they started a daycare. She was state certified, of course. Me being nosy, when we looked up the house, when I found out, she ran a daycare. Me being nosy, I go to look her up. I couldn't find. I didn't know the name. I just knew the address of the home, so I went looking it up. Being nosy, I was like, oh, and so then of course I go to check the records for state certified. I'm like, oh, she ain't had no complaints. I was like, okay. She take care of the kids, no parents calling her out about anything. Everything was always up to date. The inspections was always good. No, ticks from the staff. I'm like, okay, might be some upstanding people that stay here. So when we came in, we noticed just the atmosphere was different with this place than all the other places, and there was a peace that we felt when we was walking through here. Y'all remember me telling y'all about that? Okay, so we was in here, everybody had, the kids was outside playing, and then my husband took a seat on the couch, and we don't normally sit on people's furniture when we walking through and they got it all set up, but my husband just in there, the whole living room area, which is across from the kitchen over here, he sat down on the couch, and then the realtor just took a seat, and then my 19-year-old son, he was just walking through here like, and he took a seat on the couch, and I'm standing here in the kitchen. I'm like, yo, I said, and everybody was just kind of like quiet, you know? And I was like, yo, there is a peace in this house. And everybody said at the same time, yeah, we was trying to figure it out. They say, yeah, it is really my even my 19-year-old son, he said, yes. He said, that's what it is. He said, it is really peaceful in here, right? Okay, so now let me jump ahead to after we purchased the house. Okay, so we purchased the house and we're moving in. And this is a really nice neighborhood, and we stay in a cul-de-sac, right? And so all that we clearly from the day we moved in, like we see the stuff on TV, the neighbors coming to greet you, hey, we're such and such, and we have this many children here. And I'm thinking like, okay, not that we stayed in the worst of places, but I'm like, okay, the neighbors are coming to greet and meet you and everything. And even the sellers here, um, they were really close friends with the people who live across the street in the house over there, which is funny because when we came to look at this house, we saw the neighbors across the street, or so we thought they were the neighbors, sitting out on the front porch. And so we came in and we waved and everything. So now let me jump ahead just a little bit. Okay. So when the sellers move out, they're actually moving where they moved to Georgia. But what happened was they stayed across the street for a couple days, and because they were like really close or whatever. And there's a elderly. She looks a little elder, a little bit older than what they look. So I say an elderly lady. They stayed over there for a couple days, and we found that out from our realtor. She said, "Oh yeah, the sellers, they say they're staying across the street for a couple days until they leave and go out of state." I was like, "Well, okay." So when I was pulling back up, coming from the store, maybe like a day after we had moved in, because we signed Friday, we moved in Friday. Saturday, I ran out to the store and came back. When I was pulling back in, I noticed their car was sitting in the driveway. And so as I got out the vehicle, the husband came walking across the street. He said, "Excuse me." He said, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Hey," his wife was standing on the porch over there. He said, "If you don't mind," he said, "could you check the mailbox and just check and see if we still have mail in there?" He said, "We didn't want to just, you guys purchased the house and we just didn't want to come check in the mailbox." I was like, "Oh yeah, no problem." He said, "No, no, no rush." I said, "No, I'll check it right now." So I opened it up, and sure enough, the mail had run, and all the mail that was in there was for them. So as I took it across the street and I handed it to him, he said, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Okay, so we were talking to our realtor, and our realtor was talking to your realtor, and she told our realtor that y'all named the House of Peace." I said, "Oh, no, we named it the Peace House." And he started giggling. He said, "If you don't mind me asking," he said, "why did y'all name it that?" I said, "Okay, to make a long story short, in our search for houses, we get different fields for different houses and we'll name it. That's how, when we go back and talk about, okay, what about this property? We know, okay, so the Gopher House, we know that is out." I said, "But we named this the Peace House because when we walked in, we noticed that the atmosphere was just completely different. There was such a peace here, and we like came to the consensus, like, yes, this definitely is a place of peace." And he just smiled. He said, he said, "Well, let me just share something with you." He said, "My wife and I are very, very spiritual people. We believe in God, and we live our lives that way, and all that we do, we know that we're blessed by Him." And I just started laughing. I said, we could feel that when we walked in the house. Like we could really feel it. Like if y'all ever been able to experience or feel the presence of Yah when you walk into a place where you can decipher who is who or who's running the show, that's how it felt when you walked in here, right? And so also what happened when they were moving out, the day before we signed, the day we was doing the final walk, we signed on Friday, we did the final walkthrough on Thursday. We were actually here doing the walkthrough, and the sellers were here, and they were moving out the last bit of their furniture. But when the movers were bringing some of their heavy furniture from down the stairs, they hit the corner of the wall and dented it. And while moving the furniture out of one of the bedrooms upstairs, they dented the wall. Not just dented it, but put a hole in the wall. And on our and they did that like while we were here. So the wife was super upset. She could tell she was perturbed, right? She was said they was already running late. They should have been had all their furniture out here. So they not uptight, but they're just like, listen, y'all need to hurry up. They're here doing their final walkthrough. We should have been gone, So they're talking to them like, come on, a couple of your guys didn't show up, but we're on a time schedule here, right? So and they actually happened to do. I was like, yeah, I'm marking that on this that there are new holes. Well, that paint is scratching and it's a hole in the wall. She said, "Don't worry about it. We're gonna make sure it's fixed." I said, "Okay." I said, "But we're gonna." She said, "Oh no, that's fine." So we wrote it up that the movers, while we were there, we saw them. It was three places out, and he said, "Don't." The husband said, "Don't worry about it. We're gonna get that fixed today." So when we were signing the next morning at 10 o'clock, our realtor drove back out here because she had already had the keys. She said, "James, Pamela, don't worry about it." She said, "Before we sign, I'm going to check that." And so that's why she got to the signing late, because she drove here to come into the house and check those spaces. And they had definitely, okay, no. So two of them they had got done. But in the one where it had the hole, they said they had to get a patch for it. So they didn't get it done Friday, but they would have it done Saturday morning, before we got after the closing and everything. So she double checked that. She said, yeah. And by the time she had gotten here, she got here. They were here. No, she got here after they had patched up the hole, right? So, but she said everything was fixed, and then she came to the signing. So I said all that to tell you what I'm about to tell you, what the guy said while I was talking to him. Okay. So on the final walkthrough, we put up there to patch up this hole after signing. We're signing at 10, but we gave them till like noon to fix it because we had to drive out to Virginia Beach to the attorney's office. We was doing the signing there, right? So it'd take us about an hour from where we was coming from to get out there, and then we'd be doing the signing, and then we have to leave and drive back. So there's 2 extra hours after 10 o'clock. So we gave them time, 12 p.m. Just make sure it's done by then, you know. So he said, "So can I ask you why you named it that?" And so I said, "Okay, and I went through the little short spiel on how we named the different properties. I said, "But when we came in here, there was just like a consensus with everybody that this place, the atmosphere was just completely peaceful through and through, so much so that we relaxed and sat down and we was just at awe of the atmosphere in this place." And that's when he went on saying that him and his wife are very spiritual people. They believe in God. They worship him only. And so even that their years of being here has been blessed, even the daycare and all that stuff, and how it just thrived, and they've always just had an atmosphere of peace in their life and wherever they go. I said you could definitely feel that when you walk. And I said we felt that. I said we're very spiritual people as well. And I said, and it's undeniable that whoever lived here knew our Father, right? And so he just kind of laughed. His wife came over and we just kind of chatted a little bit. And so he said when he came in, mind you, we already had got the keys. So when he came in, which he told us, he said he got here, we was at the signing. He said he had got here a little bit after 10. They definitely had it done before 12. He said, but when he walked in, and this is to go back to what Brian Jogi said, you better make sure there are no familiar spirits. He said, when he walked in and he was up there patching a hole, he said, when he walked in, he could tell that ownership had changed, like it no longer belonged to him. He said the peace was still there for him, but he could tell that he needed to walk carefully because this is no longer his property. And he said there was like a great reverence. He said we got in and we got out. He said, and I could tell. He said, and we know. He said we know we sold this house to the right people. He said you don't know. He said, but the day you guys came and looked at it, he said that was us sitting across the street. watching everybody who came to look at their house. He said, and there was something about you guys when you showed up. And I'm like, real? I was like, well, what? What did you? Because it was me, James, and Bella, and our realtor. He said it was just something about you guys when you showed up. And him and his wife was talking about it. He said, and I saw your husband do something that we didn't see anybody else do that came. Because neighbors was out, and because it's just something we do. We have children. We want to know who lives here. Are there any pervs on the block? Like all of these things, we check into all of these things. He said the way he walked around just checking things out, he talked to the neighbors and everything. And he said, y'all didn't know, but we're a very tight community. He said, we know everybody in this neighborhood on this cul-de-sac. We all talk. We're really good friends, And so after you guys left, we talked. He said, yeah, he was just asking about the neighborhood. And he said, so he was the only one. You guys were the only one that did all of those things. We just got a really good feeling about you. So the day that we got our offer accepted, that's the day where our realtor said the sellers are looking at two offers and you guys are one of them. Is there anything you would like to change? I remember telling y'all that. I was like, okay, tell them we'll raise our price by $1,001, just like the price is right. Do it. Just tell them $1,001. Not that they were asking for that, but they were asking if there was anything, because our offers were really neck and neck, and we wasn't sure how neck and neck they were. That's why we just raised our offering price by $1,001. And so she called us back in 20 minutes and said that they had accepted our offer, which now we know that it seemed like they was going to accept our offer regardless, of, and in hindsight after talking to him and everything, so. But yes, Bronze Jogi, when we were for certain that we were signing for this house and we knew that they were out, I set the perimeters from where we were at from the hotel around this property. I really did, so that's what he felt our entourage, our unseen entourage, come through, right? We take residence here now. This property belongs to us. There will be no trespassing. And if anybody or any spirit is there that shouldn't be, you got to roll out, bro, before we even get there. We set the guard. And that's what he felt when he came back here to patch up that hole, right? So we don't play. We don't play. Okay, where we at? An hour and 22 minutes, y'all. We just gonna finish reading the rest of this chapter. Actually, we'll finish reading this, which is a few more verses, in chapter 7, which is 10 verses, which ends the first end of the first Chinese Bible. And tomorrow we'll start on chapter 8, which starts talking about Abram. So let me go ahead and finish, right? So that was my little extra story for the day. Okay. Verse 9, page 273. God said, the old law was for the olden time. It was a good law to improve the breed of men for special trades and learning, and that law hath fulfilled its purpose. The physician hath found great cures, and he knoweth all the parts of the flesh and blood. The miner knoweth the different kinds of stone and the metals in them, and how to extract them. The farmer knoweth grounds and the yield thereof, and what they will bring and what they will best bring forth. The spinner and weaver have found the best of fibers for paper and for cloth, and so hath it come to pass in all departments by the Zarathustrian law of caste that have perfected these things sufficient unto the requirement of man. For which reason ye shall teach all things unto all, and they shall work with their own hands at all industries, remembering that the highest, best, most perfect man is he that can do all things. John Lee inquired, since a man dieth in a few years at most, why shall he strive to learn things that pertain to the earth? God said, all learning is as a gymnasium to the spirit. Knowledge is the strength of the soul. That is so good. God said, all learning is as a gymnasium to the spirit. Knowledge is the strength of the soul. Ye shall teach all things unto your sons and daughters, perfecting them in the talents created withal. First, to useful labors. Second, to learning. Third, to music and art, in sculpture and painting. fourth to mining, and fifth to perfectness. And ye shall intersperse labor and learning with recreation, not only in rites and ceremonies, but in harmless games, as in dancing, racing, and playing, old and young, cultivating joyous hearts, for these are outspoken words of glory to the Great Spirit. Every governor and priest and rabbah shall provide for a successor. After the light of counsel of the All Highest shall they be chosen. Chucks, I think we got that recreation part down pat. Linda, shalom, shalom. Trina, I just saw your comment. Yes, honey, you got me ready to come over and chill in your new house. Look, once we get the furniture in here, because we ordered everything new, right? And so we all sitting on like the floor and standing, and we got like the little children's chairs and stuff. But stuff will start being delivered Tuesday. Once we get everything, girl, we're gonna have something over here, right? We got a nice entertaining space. Okay, last chapter, which is 10 verses, y'all. Chapter 7. Hai Siang became converted to the doctrines of Po as taught by God, who was called Tayin in those days in that country. Ah Sing and Hai Siang and Sigal entered into compact to throw off the dominion of Han, and so notified him. Han thereupon declared war against them, and he pursued them cruelly, laying waste a great country. Po and his followers were thus driven toward the south, and on their way, they gathered up the faithest of the tribes of Hia. Now it came to pass that Han's success in war was so great that he concentrated not his armies, but caused them to scatter in different ways. And behold, he went so far that the barbarians fell upon his armies and destroyed them, and Han himself perished by the blow of a barbarian woman. In the fourth year of the inspiration of Po, he returned and possessed the countries of Fei, Hing Adi, and Sealov, and he reinstated Ah Sin and Hai Siang as governors. Hai Siang called a council of 13 kingdoms of Japheth, and after 70 days' deliberation, Hai Siang was made ruler over Japheth, receiving the title King of the Sun. And he established the doctrines of Po by law, changing the name of all light to Tayin, signifying God. And he stopped all persecution against the faithists, and he prohibited idol worship. And Po traveled east and west, north and south, teaching and displaying miraculous things. And God was with him at all times and places, gathering together the chosen, explaining and practicing the commandments of God, Tayin. And man ceased to worship idols and gods and saviors, worshiping the Creator only. And that is the end of the first Chinese Bible. I absolutely love Oahspe. All right, so tomorrow, y'all, when we start off, we're going to start off on page 275, chapter 8. The first Francine Bible being of Abram, a man chosen by God for the children of Arabia. All right, y'all. That's going to be pretty exciting. Talk about Sodom and Gomorrah. Ooh. Oh, yeah, I'm going to save this one tomorrow. I really want to read it, but oh, yeah. Sarai, a son Isaac, because he was born of Sarai after she passed a time of childbearing. Oh, y'all. Oh, this is going to be good. Y'all going to love this. Okay. Ugh. Oh, this is so good. Okay, we're going to start that tomorrow. Y'all can read ahead if y'all like. All right. So, with that being said, beautiful people, that is it for today. Hold on. My page. 270. Oh. Okay, y'all. It is Saturday, July the 9th, 2022, day 154 of year 4, reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1172. We read first book of God, which is found in Oahspe, on page 263 to page 274, which is the first portion of it. And tomorrow we'll pick back up where we left off at, reading about Abram or Abraham and Sarah, and all the familiar stories that we know from the Holy Bible. All right, with that being said, beautiful people, is there something I need to share with y'all? I don't think I need to share anything. I just need to update and put my title for yesterday and do my title today before I get moving and get out of here. All right, yeah, that's it. I ain't got nothing else. But thank y'all for hanging out today. I love y'all. May the one and only Creator bless you all in all that you do. And all that you do, may it be a glory unto Him forever. Him only. All right, y'all. I love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go ahead.
And two.
End it too. Bye, y'all. Trying to push them at the same time.